Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another video in the hostage room. As always, just a quick one today because, as always, I can take time out of my busy schedule to dunk on the Overwatch League. Of course I can. And there was an interview that I want to talk about that might have flown under your radar. You might have missed it. I think it's got a lot of significance when we start talking about where we're at with the league. Now, just to give you sort of an appraisal of the news and everything that's been going on lately, right? We've already had a long line of these regional franchises in both the Overwatch and the Call of Duty League. Many of the owners are the same and have both and double dip because they've been sipping on that Activision Blizzard Kool-Aid. They've had to go and put in for PPP loans, right? That was announced like last week, and they're taking out millions of dollars to keep the payroll going because the model they had, the business model, has been absolutely fucked by COVID-19 because this was the season people were meant to be gathering in home stadiums, going through turnstiles, buying merchandise and fucking hot dogs and beer and pretending, wow, I really love Overwatch. And of course it ain't happened because we can't gather in public, or I don't know, we all fucking instantly die on the spot, or whatever the latest developments in COVID is. So it's been real tough for them. The Overwatch League was already struggling. This global pandemic has added a whole new level to that. And just for a bit of news, I briefly mentioned it in passing in my last video. The reality is, I know from talking to owners are like, listen, Activision Blizzard, we bought into this. We were on your side. We wanted this to work. We've paid $20 million for a slot when everyone said that was fucking stupid. And you promised us we'd be getting some return on it by this time. And now, basically, with COVID, we're not. So we would like some financial relief. That's been the general kind of train of thought from these owners. And Activision Blizzard are like, sorry, I'm just counting this big pile of money over here. You guys got to sort your own shit out. Now, also keep in mind, owners have been footing the bill for all of the demands Activision Blizzard put in place to get us to the homestand stage. And that means having a stadium that you can host the games in, having staff that can work in those games, being able to produce their show, the Overwatch League show, from inside that venue. You need to have a suitable area for that. These are all things that the owners have had to foot the bill for and got no fucking return. So, with all of that in mind, right? And they were boasting about the viewership. They've had a 5% increase since they moved to this like tournament system. It's got up to like, I don't know, what is it, 54,000 average viewers on their weekly broadcasts. That's like a 5% increase. And everyone's like, yeah, we're turning the corner. Holy shit, for 20 mil, this is outrageous. So anyway, far be it from me as the guy that told you this is exactly how it was going to go down, that there was definitely no prescribed wisdom in the business model whatsoever. Now's not the time to gloat. They're going to keep pushing this, by the way. There's no plans of shutting down. For me, the end of this season would definitely be the time to do it. Pull the parachute and just fucking float down to fucking Disaster Island and count how much money you've got left. But no, apparently internally, they're like, don't worry, it's still good. It's all going to work out. Like, holy shit, Call of Duty is now outperforming the Overwatch League, and I think has more franchise potential anyway because the game's more popular. Overwatch 2 is not going to save your disastrous league. You need to fucking realize that now. If I were an owner and I'd have one of these slots, I'd sell it. Like, you've got to. It doesn't matter if Blizzard are going to pocket 25% of that sale, as is in the contracts. Get out now. Like, we don't even know. But America's fucked up their handling of the pandemic so bad, it's going to go on for a while. These are all American franchises we're realistically talking about that are the most affected. So, holy shit, what a fucking nightmare. Anyway, the point of the video today was just to bring your attention to an interview with the San Francisco Shock, an NRG CEO, Andy Miller. Now, Andy Miller, for those that don't know, he's a guy from kind of like, mainstream business. He's worked for some huge companies. And, he's a guy that I honestly, I'll be frank with you, I didn't think I was going to like Andy Miller, right? Because he's one of those money motherfuckers, and I'm not built like that. But he's actually a really cool, down-to-earth dude and, someone I'm proud to, call a colleague. And we did an interview. It was back in, I think, like March 2019. It was very early on when I was doing the Deserto talk show season. And he was one of the first guests. And we talked at length about the Overwatch League, whether it was a good investment, how things were going over at San Francisco Shock. Like, for me, the biggest brand there, they've done an incredible job. They've had great players. They've obviously won, seasons, and they've got a very good fan base. They do a great social media game. There's very competent people working over at that organization. And Andy Miller said, like, listen, we're doing great, when you think about the valuation and and he was a true believer. He was a true believer, like an absolute nailed on devotee of the Activision Blizzard way of doing things. In just over a year, he did an interview now where he basically says, and it's just in passing, and I'm sorry as well, Andy, because I know you didn't want this to happen, but he did say in the interview that he didn't want to make headlines, but of course, you're such an important figure in the landscape and your brand is so big in the Overwatch landscape, it was always going to make headlines. And plus also haters like me, right? What else the fuck are we going to do? We all love to laugh at the Overwatch League. I know you ain't laughing because it's your fucking pockets, but hopefully it's not too much of your own money. It's probably just some VC dudes, so it's all good. We can all have drinks and sort of laugh about it in 5 years. But anyway, he did an interview that, because it wasn't in like a big, esports outlet, he basically says, you know what? Probably if I could go back with the knowledge I had now, probably wouldn't invest in the Overwatch League, frankly. You can give it a listen here.
Dealt with, keeping the game relevant and keeping through that, I guess, the following for the league.
Yeah. Well, I think you should be commissioner of the Overwatch League because I think we'd be doing much better. I think you nailed it. Like the game, the central issue with the Call of Duty League, well, any league, League of Legends, you name it, is that for the NBA does not own the game, right? Commissioner Silver, the greatest commissioner, works for the owners of the NBA, and the game of basketball is a game that everyone plays and anyone can play. The commissioner of the Overwatch League works for Bobby Kotick. He doesn't work for us as owners, even though we put the money in, and he's at the mercy of the game developers and the business of Blizzard Activision. And that's a hard place to be. And we've not ever really figured out that sort of yin and yang with owners because we don't own the game. We can't say, hey, you know what? You got to put a Shock storefront in here because we haven't changed skins in 2 years. Or what's up with the development cycle here, guys? Hello. We don't have any say in that. And we're getting better at that with a relationship because I think it was very, very one-sided and it's getting better. But I think the Overwatch League, we're waiting for Overwatch 2. You nailed it, right? We're waiting for Overwatch 2. They've been trying to do a bunch of different things with hero bands and other fun stuff. And it's fun, but you have a very hardcore audience. And it's amazing. Like this audience, if you watch during the day, it doesn't even fluctuate much at all with viewership. Like when the Huntsmen go to play in a Call of Duty match, it literally goes up 50, 75, 100%. When the Shock play, we're one of the most popular teams, it doesn't go up at all. It's just the same. It's because people like Overwatch. They like to watch the game. That's it. So we have a long way to go there. And it's a problem when you've paid a huge amount of money that you're dependent on a game. And this game hasn't proved itself out like Counter-Strike or League or Dota to be something that's going to be here for a long time.
So I'm curious, 2020 hindsight, do you reckon do the Overwatch League again, or would you probably just more stick to Call of Duty League?
If it was now, when I didn't have, and I have, energy, which is in the last year become amazing, and we have Huntsman, I would probably not do it. Not to make headlines, but only because there's a lot of money to be spent now in two places at the same time, Call of Duty and Overwatch. Right. And they're both going through growing pains and they're both trying to figure it out. And if I had to bet on something, because I have this incredibly unique position where we are, dominant skin sales, dominant attendance, dominant viewership.
Yeah.
We have Hector, we have Scump. There's a history, and the game is fresh. And it's in the United States, at least, it's a cultural phenomenon. Like I can tell you, most of the players on the Kings, they call up. They're like, "Hey, you think I can get in like a Warzone thing with Formal and Scump like every day?" Because they all play it. They're not calling up mostly and saying, "Can I play Overwatch with Sinatra?" And we've seen with the game. We're waiting. It's a bet right now. It's a bet to figure out the right model, figure out how to survive in this pandemic without events. Because actually, the events for Overwatch sold really well, and they were fun. If you saw the few that they did, there was a good time, right? People liked it. We sold 4,000 tickets for 2 events pretty quickly. And so there's a business there. There's a fan base there. Was it worth 20 million right away? I don't know. I think that was probably a bit piggish. Same with Call of Duty, which was more. But I don't like betting and waiting. No. If you're asking me, right? I'm going to bet that this game comes back to where it was. I don't know. That's a weird bet.
So if you want to watch the full interview, and I recommend you do, it's about an hour and a half. It's a good listen. Andy's a great guy to listen to. It's over on a channel called the Watch Time Podcast. I'll probably put a link in the description. They've only got 56,000 subscribers at the time of recording this. I don't know why. It's a very high quality show. It's better than the shit I'm putting out at the moment in my rickety old setup. So go watch the whole thing. But the reality here is this is the first time I've really heard a big prominent figure in Overwatch basically say what we kind of all know, that looking back in hindsight, it was very overinflated. The money probably wasn't worth it. The Call of Duty League's kind of doing better. And there's people that I've already talked to, other owners that didn't invest in the Overwatch League, that sort of were nailed on in their analysis, that they just didn't see where it was going to go. Now, I will add, nobody could have foresaw a global pandemic coming out of China and completely fucking how we live for an entire year, if we're lucky. I don't think anybody could have predicted that, fair enough. And that obviously has had a profound impact on the business model of the league. But the reality is, it was already kind of swirling down the tubes anyway. Its popularity is very much on the wane. And I'm talking just as a game, not as an esport. That's before we get a viewership. There was no chance of Twitch signing again for that fabled $90 million deal, which we're now kind of hearing about. Probably wasn't actually $90 million because a lot of that was kind of performance-based bonuses built into it. So it didn't perform well. It probably didn't get that. It probably isn't as catastrophic a deal as it sounds, but still a very fucking stupid one, if we're being honest about it. And the move to YouTube seems more, and working with, Google seems more predicated on infrastructure stuff than it is on discoverability. It's almost like they're kind of, looking a few steps ahead to long-term business strategy and business partnerships than thinking about the league anymore. And until we get back to some sense of normality, I don't really understand what the Overwatch League can do. You can keep changing the structures and changing the tournaments, and people are liking it. You can change the way you do your picks and bans. People are responding well to the changes you're making to the league, but not well enough. And while this is going on, you have huge venture capital groups that are now, 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever it is, maybe 3 years into having invested in this project and seeing no discernible return. In fact, a lot of them are hemorrhaging cash. If you remember the article I wrote over at Deserto about this, the sources were saying every team is in the red. Now, that might be different for the few that got to try out some homestands, although I doubt it very much. I think overall, holistically, over the course of the project, a couple of homestands here and there ain't bailing you out. But, think about how popular Dallas Fuel was, how Blizzard, everyone boasted about the numbers. And now we know that actually they made either a very small profit or just broke even. And I don't even believe that. I think that's probably some very careful spin and creative accounting. So this is I don't know, it sounds like it's just a little throwaway line in an interview, but Andy Miller's a very careful, measured guy. He understands when he says something, the impact it's going to have. And I think this is almost kind of like a shot across Activision Blizzard's bows that, listen, us, the true believers, the disciples of the Overwatch League, we can't really maintain this veneer, this facade that everything's fine, because it fucking ain't. So it was great to sort of see people, finally in a position to speak openly about it. The Overwatch League's been cloaked in so much secrecy, and I think Andy Miller recognizes, that he's such an important figure that he can pretty much say these things now. And what you're going to do? It's San Francisco Shock. I mean, if they bail, that's way worse than even losing all your casters, losing your MVP, So he's in a very strong position in terms of being able to speak his mind publicly, and I'm glad he did. Anyway, that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed this little tidbit of information. Follow me on all of these things. Let's get this YouTube channel jumping. I was watching motherfuckers that have been doing this nowhere near as long as me, getting like to 150 and 200K, and it's like, obviously I've had my battles with YouTube. Obviously algorithmically they've been shafting me because I talk about politics on the channel too. But yeah, like I think I'm ready to start putting out more and more regular content, finally ready to go like independent and just concentrate on journalism and streaming and that stuff. And as soon as my stuff gets here and we get a bit more of a studio set up, the quality of the videos is going to ramp up. So just bear with me while that happens. It's going to be like another month of just me talking in an empty room, but hopefully I'm entertaining enough to kind of like, make it worth 10 minutes of your day or whatever. So maybe closer to 20. Anyway, I love you all. Thanks for the support. Make sure you take care of yourselves in these crazy times, and I'll see you on the next video.